Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. We already know that this cycle is preparing to be much bigger than ever before, and it's all fueled because of the institutional demand that we've personally been waiting for a lot of years to see. Now that it's here, I wanted to break down exactly how the altcoins are going to play out with Bitcoin, what the price action is going to look like getting over the next few months, and how we can look to profit over this entire cycle as we get into the peak of the bull run. If you guys find any value, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, and if you do want to check out my investments long term, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. As we're jumping into Ethereum, I wanted to kick things off by really mapping out the price action we're seeing right now, and I think the direction that Ethereum is going to be taking in this next leg up. Now, guys, it's very important that as we're in the beginning stages of this bull run, you're not underestimating just how quickly the market can get, parabolic into price discovery and leave you behind. And that was one of the things that I'm really grateful in the last cycle that I learned was as we were in the very low points of the accumulation, specifically when we had just broken out of this big sort of bottom formation, I guess you could say, we flipped it as new support and retested that entire level. Now, it was in this move that I consolidated the majority of my portfolio. Any cash I had, I went all into the market. And it was, a smart decision because I wasn't even expecting the market to break out as quick as it did. And it caught me by surprise. And so if it catches me by surprise, and I've already had a prior cycle that was, the biggest one of all time, you got to be at least aware that with this being the institutional cycle, the trajectory of Ethereum, the trajectory of Bitcoin, and the rest of the altcoin market is at a much quicker pace than we've ever seen before. And because of that, in the next leg up, once we start the breakout, I think that with this Ethereum ETF, we're going to see a lot of money coming into it. We're going to see a lot of money flocking into it because people that already missed out on Bitcoin that watched it run once this ETF was approved, they're going to be looking at Ethereum as, a next best opportunity. They're going to look at it as kind of being gold and silver. And I think that they're going to follow Ethereum just because of the fact that they ended up missing out. But in the short term, what we're looking at down in here, we just went through our correction. I believe that this correction is over. I believe that we've already bottomed as indicated by the Ethereum ETF. And I do think that we're at that pace of going up into our next leg up. Now, because we're already so close to those prior all-time highs, I do think that the next leg up is going to be where we actually flip it. And we're going to end up running, fairly close to 6K, maybe even a little above 6K in this next leg up. Now, I am expecting once we get this breakup, we're going to eventually end up coming back down to retest this high. Now, we might do something like this, and this is where a lot of people are going to get caught off guard, where you make your first breakout into price discovery, and then you have this first retest that takes place. We retested it here. This would be the prior all-time highs. And then once we start getting that next leg up, most people are going to assume that it's just going to go instantly into a big, move all the way up to like $10,000. And I think that that's going to be the moment where we get the real shakeout that takes place. And all we should be expecting in this beginning stage, we've only ever just seen higher highs and higher lows. If I remove these, every single resistance level that we've had, we've broken from it and we've ended up retesting it as new support. During that ETF sell-off, when we had all of that fear shortly after the approval, Ethereum just came right back down and, smacked right on top of that prior high. And that's what you're going to expect to see inside of a bull market, higher highs and higher lows the entire trend. And that's what we've seen every single one of these moves. If we look at the peak from the ETF approval, where we were at when we got that approval and made that false breakout, we pretty much just came right back down to retest that in our most recent correction. So when we're watching Ethereum, I think that we're really just looking for a lot of the same sort of things, where in this next leg up, I think we're going to run to 6K, and then from there we're just going to be, making these same higher highs and higher lows. The difference is not only will we be retesting the prior high that we just broke from, or that we're about to at 4,100, but it will also be confluence with the prior all-time highs of that last cycle. So the next breakout coming is going to be the most important one because it's the first time Ethereum is going into price discovery, and it's also the first time that Bitcoin is doing that. Now, we can look at a couple different charts, and I think that this is going to be the next most important one to consider when we're talking about how the altcoins are going to factor in with an Ethereum breakout, how Bitcoin is historically speaking played out in the prior cycles, because where we're at for Ethereum is a little bit different than the rest of the market. We have to understand that this is a fundamentally driven cycle, more so than any of the prior ones. Now, we have the Ethereum ETF and we have the Bitcoin ETF. Through that, we know that those two are guaranteed to have institutional adoption. From that point on, we can't really say what is next in line. We don't know. But so I think because of that, Ethereum itself and Bitcoin are going to be outliers. And when we're looking at the total altcoin market cap, it's important that we're understanding that in the short term, Ethereum can outperform, and we might end up seeing a little bit of a variance inside of the total market cap of the altcoins. So what we're looking at up here, and really we're going to go all the way back to this first cycle, because I think that this is probably the most important thing that we can be considering when we're mapping out how the altcoins are going to behave in this coming breakout. So with Bitcoin, every single time that Bitcoin has gone into a new all-time high, it's actually outperformed and led, and the altcoins have still been way below their prior all-time highs. So we can come over here and look in this last cycle, and we can see that Bitcoin made its new all-time high right here. Altcoins were literally just right here. They were still way below their prior all-time highs. All we had done was broke out of their bear market bottom. We had just retested it as new support, and then we had made our secondary higher high above that. So we were really confirming the higher highs, and it was at this point kind of at our last stage before we got that big push into a new all-time high. Where we're at for Bitcoin in that period, Bitcoin was making a new all-time high, and it took all the way up until here before the altcoin total market cap went into that new all-time high. So we're talking, it was clear up into Bitcoin making another new high. We had already ran all the way up from 18,000 to 42,000, made that pullback. Altcoins, were actually outperforming inside of those pullbacks for Bitcoin. But then once Bitcoin made another new high above that one, we broke above 42K and we're going into price discovery. That was where the altcoins finally went into price discovery. So we have to understand here, guys, that Bitcoin actually made a pretty decent move into new all-time highs. And it was basically from 42K until the very top, just the tail end of this move to 65K, that the altcoins finally outperformed. And that's when they went into, their blow off tops, I guess you could say. Even though we had another peak that happened at the end of the year, this is the way that the market played out. Bitcoin itself had already made a significant move into price discovery all the way up at 42K before the altcoins ever even got around to making that new all-time high. So when we're looking at this current cycle, I think it's very important that we're looking at the same similarities and we're drawing the same conclusions, because up to this point, it hasn't been very different. When we're looking at Bitcoin today, when we're looking at the altcoins today in this new cycle, we're seeing a lot of the same similarities where Bitcoin is now entering price discovery again. We've successfully made a new all-time high, and now we're once again breaking out, or at least getting ready to. Don't get me wrong, we could still correct and spend another week or two, or maybe even a month or two in this range. But the way that Bitcoin is reversing here, I lean much more towards that we're just going to be going into a new all-time high, because, you're just playing with the bigger picture trend at this point. When we're seeing Bitcoin at this new all-time high, remember in the last cycle, Bitcoin made a very big move into price discovery and then had a pullback way before altcoins ever even got into a new all-time high. So altcoins themselves, the total market cap, were still a decent ways below those prior all-time highs. And what I think is going to end up playing out from Bitcoin, Bitcoin is going to run into price discovery. We're probably going to go upwards of 100K. It could go higher. It could go a little lower. I don't know exactly. But I think we're going to be going into this next leg up. And once we get a pullback, I think that the altcoin total market cap will run up to this prior all-time high. We might see a retest of that level. One more pullback to kind of give us our next higher high and higher low, because you guys got to keep in mind, every one of these moves has came back down and retested that prior high, right? We're just making higher highs and higher lows. So I wouldn't be surprised that Bitcoin continues to outperform on this next leg up. Altcoins finally come back up to those prior all-time highs. We get a pullback, kind of retest that prior high. And then once we get into price discovery for the altcoins, once Bitcoin makes an even bigger high above that, a new higher high, I think that that's where the altcoins are going to end up outperforming in the same way that we did in this first cycle. Because you guys got to keep in mind that Bitcoin itself had already made a brand new all-time high and was outpacing the altcoins for quite a while, right? The altcoins were running, getting closer and closer to those prior all-time highs, but Bitcoin was still running into price discovery, and we went almost 100% up and doubled in price, going from 20K all the way to 40K. So we saw a much bigger move in Bitcoin, and it outperformed a lot of those altcoins. But once Bitcoin made another new high above that, that was the point where we saw the real rotation inside of the markets. Altcoins came to flip their all-time highs right as we were kind of running into the very tail end of that 65K top. So seeing Bitcoin at this new all-time high and seeing the total altcoin market cap once again below it, it does at least point to the same similarities that we could see something like this. Maybe altcoins do make a little bit more of a bigger move into a new all-time high, and then we come back down and kind of correct. Maybe it's something like this. It doesn't really change anything. I'm just trying to help you guys visualize the big picture with Bitcoin dominance, we're going to have to see a rotation take place inside of this chart. And that's why I've been so consistent with updating you guys with this chart over the last, year and a half at this point. Because what we need to see is this to top. Bitcoin dominance has to top for the altcoin rotation to set in. But what I'm not going to be the least bit surprised of would be one more final peak up to like 58% before we ended up seeing that rotation set in. It's just something we could be aware of. It doesn't have to happen because we have a significant amount of bearish divergence that's forming. We already have enough bearish divergence, and we're already close enough to that main descending resistance that, the rotation can happen literally at any second, whether we make a teeny tiny 1% move up for Bitcoin dominance before it takes place or whether we don't, it doesn't matter that much to me. What we're seeing playing out on the bigger pictures is Bitcoin's first move into price discovery. The question now comes for the altcoins, are we going to end up seeing them, make a move into price discovery, or are they going to kind of just come up, maybe retest these prior all-time highs, get another pullback, and then once Bitcoin makes that next leg up, maybe we're passing 100K, we're getting into the 115, 120K mark, maybe that's when the altcoin rotation happens. I don't for sure know, but what I can say, guys, is we're getting very close to that moment in time. This is for sure where the majority of our profit is going to be made in the exact same ways it was in that last cycle. The majority of altcoin profit kind of came here at the very tail end of that 65K move, and we have to understand that Bitcoin can make a pretty decent leg up into price discovery way before those altcoins ever even get to those prior all-time highs. So the big thing to understand, in the last cycle, we were farther below those prior all-time highs than where we're at today. We were at a much lower point in the market cycle. So where we're at inside of the altcoins today is, a little bit higher. We're kind of still at that mid-range point, but it's at a little bit of a higher point. I would just say that we can easily follow that same trajectory moving forward. It's just depending on when that rotation happens for Bitcoin dominance. If we get one more leg up for the dominance, it would line up that Bitcoin is going to end up outperforming in this first breakout. However, if we just saw that rotation take place right now, and that's fueled because of the Ethereum ETF, if Ethereum just starts breaking out and really leads this cycle in a big way, kind of like what we were talking about over in here, this can easily drag the entire market up. If we're looking at Ethereum going up to 6K and then flipping its prior all-time highs, the altcoin total market cap could see, a pretty significant rise in the same way. Is that actually going to be taking us into a new all-time high? I don't know for sure. But if Ethereum were to go all the way up to 6K, don't be surprised if this, ended up actually overextending a little bit higher. We could see that rotation take place a little bit earlier just because of all of the weakness that we're seeing in here with the bearish divergence. When we're looking at Ethereum having the ETF, the next leg up is going to be price discovery, and I honestly think that this is the trajectory that it's going to follow. The next breakout to 6K, pullback, retest those prior all-time highs, and then we're looking for the really big move, coming into the topping point at the end of 2025. And who knows, it could be earlier. There's always the potential that we could see too much overextension in the price where things just get really blown out of proportion. But regardless, I'm still looking at your normal 4-year cycle. With Ethereum, we got to expect that once the breakout into price discovery comes, it's always that leg up. After we've kind of retested that move and started the next leg up, it's in that one the majority of the profit for altcoins are going to come in. I've talked extensively about why I believe that this is the cycle where Bitcoin dominance is going to be falling into a brand new all-time low. And we're going to be seeing a very big move into these altcoins. Guys, it'll be the first altcoin cycle since that 2017 bull run that altcoins are actually outperforming against Bitcoin. And so when we're looking at Ethereum having this type of a setup coming in, I think a lot of it is lining up that this cycle is going to be very powerful for the entirety of this cycle, not just Ethereum, but altcoins as a whole. On-chain altcoins are going to do really well. We just had the announcement of the Coinbase Smart Wallet, so that's going to be able to connect all of their centralized exchange to their layer 2, and also their layer 2 with all of crypto. And I think it's going to provide a lot of liquidity to on-chain markets. The TradeFi guys are here, the institutions are here. I've got nothing but confidence that this thing is going to get sent in a very big way. And this is the cycle where we just want to have our positions ready to go and hold. We can't get shaken out as we're just in these early stages of price discovery, because if Ethereum is about to go to 6K and the total altcoin market cap is about to do something similar, who knows if it goes into a new all-time high, maybe it just retests it. Regardless, we're looking at a very, very big move coming in all of these altcoin markets. And I have a lot of confidence that with Ethereum having the ETF approval, with Bitcoin having the ETF approval, those two are going to be outliers in this cycle. And any project that does end up getting that ETF approved, I honestly think that those are going to see some of the most upside, because we're talking institutional demand, we're talking trade fight people, on top of all of the on-chain stuff that's already going to be taking place with crypto investors. So now is the time where we just want to be bag packed, ready to go, hold the entirety of the cycle, because the fun part's just about to start, guys. And I'm really excited to have you guys a part of this, excited to be trading it with you, because I know we're all about to make a lot of money in the process. So guys, if you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you do want to see anything I'm buying, selling, trading over the course of these cycles, any altcoins I'm making signals on currently inside of the group, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. Every single thing I'm doing with my portfolio, even if I take profits on crypto and rotate into a completely brand new asset class, I post all of it inside of my group. So if you want to see that, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. Once again, guys, thank you so much for the support. I love you. I appreciate you. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.